My sister-in-law left her lingerie in my boyfriend's room. I told Sophia to respect boundaries. David snapped at me, "You've got a filthy mind. She's just careless. Not malicious. You're the one seeing problems everywhere." I froze. Since when was it normal for a sister-in-law to leave lingerie in her brother-in-law's bedroom? On the bed. No less. That bed, I'm the one who paid for it. Why couldn't she keep it in her own room? He sneered. Who knew you'd have such a gutter brain? My palm cracked across his face before I could think. Perfect timing for a breakup. Sophia had moved in with David 3 months ago. He'd pleaded. She's my widowed sister-in-law, how could I say no? Promised she'd move out once she found a job. I didn't mind at first. But 3 months later? Not a word about her leaving. Instead, our dates kept getting shorter. Either Sophia burned herself cooking and needed medication, or the circuit breaker tripped and the helpless widow couldn't handle it alone. Tonight's opera date got ruined by thunderstorms. During the drive back, David suddenly pulled over. "Get out. Emily. You're used to being independent, you'll manage a cab. But Sophia, she acts tough but startles like a kitten. With this thunder? She's probably terrified. I need to hurry back." His Toyota taillights vanished in the downpour. I stood drenched under an awning, watching other girls get picked up by their boyfriends. When the last couple drove off, I finally hailed a cab, but didn't go home. The woman who answered David's door wore a low-cut camisole nightgown, cleavage prominently displayed without undergarments. "Can I help you?" she asked breezily. "You don't recognize me?" I knew exactly who she was, Sophia, the fragile sister-in-law. David's voice carried from inside before I could respond. "Sophia. Who's here so late?" He froze when he saw me, then immediately turned defensive. "What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you to take a cab straight home? Can't I come?" David was momentarily speechless at my words, but quickly recovered. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I'm just worried about you. It's late and raining." So he did understand how unsafe it was to travel at night during a storm. Sophia chose that moment to invite me inside. That's when I noticed my pink pig slippers were already on her feet. She casually drank from my yellow crocodile water bottle before handing me a disposable cup filled with tap water. "Emily came all this way," she said sweetly. "So sorry we can't offer proper guestware this late. Hope this will do." The cold water in my flimsy cup reflected my disheveled appearance. "How adequate." David erupted when he heard the exchange. "Emily, stop being ridiculous. It's just a damn cup." "Oh. So he did recognize that yellow bottle as mine. You refused to move in together." He spat. "Now that Sophia's here, why shouldn't she use your old things? If you abandoned them, others might as well enjoy them." I eyed his hypocritical expression. "How frugal of you, David. Couldn't even buy new supplies for your precious Sophia. How noble of her to settle for hand-me-downs." I slammed the cup down and stormed into the bedroom. There it was, lacy lingerie sprawled across our former bed. David thought he'd been clever, but his opera night texts had glowed brighter than the stage lights. That neon-lit screen in the dark theater? Couldn't miss those racy lingerie photos searing my retinas. "Since when do you barge into private spaces uninvited?" David shouted, face flushing burgundy as I hurled the lingerie at him. "This your idea of class? She's just careless." He sputtered. "Not everyone looks for hidden meanings like you." His contorted features mirrored his supermarket phone call I'd overheard weeks prior. "I'm only with her for the money. She could never compare to you, baby. Now tell me, which style do you want? Or should we try them all?" The words were tender yet icy. Looking at that twisted face before me, everything became clear. He never loved me, only schemed. I refused to be his fool any longer. "Oh, care to explain this carelessness?" I clapped sarcastically. "Careless enough to wear lingerie? Careless enough to end up in your bed? Careless enough to leave it behind? My palm cracked across David's face. We're through. David stumbled from the slap. Eyes bloodshot like a feral beast. Not so careless now. Are we? I taunted. His chest heaved. Enough. Emily. Stop twisting things. The storm frightened Sophia. She just needed shelter here. Sophia sniffled theatrically. Miss Johnson. This is cruel. It was an accident. You've no right to hit people. The delicate widow straightened with false bravado. Behave yourself or I'll have you removed. I dropped into an armchair. Remove me? From my own fiancé's home? Sophia's voice gained confidence. You're being unreasonable. We're innocent. Her hand lingered on David's arm as she comforted him. Emboldened, David squared his shoulders. When will you stop this filthy-minded nonsense? Emily? I let the accusations wash over me silently. Mistaking my quiet for submission, David softened. You've had your tantrum. Let's forget this. Sweetheart. I'll take you home. Both Sophia and I froze. What? We exclaimed in unison. I was stunned by his audacity. Sophia was probably shocked by his mercy. But to maintain her delicate image, Sophia could only fan the flames nearby. It's fine if I'm misunderstood. Widows always attract gossip, I understand. This is my burden to bear. I sniffled. I just feel bad for David. You were only being kind. Yet got slapped. It's all my fault. Wah. Watching Sophia's dramatic performance, David's face softened with pity, his eyes wavering visibly. I snorted. David, are you insane? I kicked over the trash can overflowing with tissues. Send me home? So you two can keep hooking up in my bed? Disgust overwhelmed me. I spun around and lit the bedsheet with my lighter. Sophia's sweet facade shattered instantly. Oh my God! That's a custom-made mattress. Do you know how much it costs? She shrieked, frantically grabbing the lingerie to smother flames. David ground his teeth. Emily, stop this madness. I'm reaching my limit. Either quit now or get out. You're not welcome here. He shielded Sophia protectively behind him while battling the fire. Now you're kicking me out. I froze mid-step from intercepting Sophia's 911 call. By the time flames died down, police were already knocking. Sophia rushed to open the door. Officers! Arrest her! She broke in, destroyed property, and set fires. David looked stunned, clearly unaware she called cops. The young officer sternly asked if the accusations were true. Calmly, I glanced at David. He avoided eye contact but seemed to anticipate my next move. Urgently signaling Sophia. Sophia burst into theatrical sobs. Officer! Look at the burnt sheets! The flames were this high. She gestured wildly. We barely stopped the building from burning. What kind of woman storms into her ex's apartment at midnight causing scenes? Her tears flowed like cheap tap water. Finally, she could no longer maintain her fragile facade. Lunging forward to grab the officer's arms, she pleaded, Officers. She's dangerous. That woman should be removed immediately. Sophia renewed her demands to have me expelled. David suddenly raised his voice in feigned rebuke. That's enough. Sophia! Emily's always been overly sensitive. She just cares about me too much and lost control tonight. He turned to me with performative tenderness. I know you didn't mean it. Sweetheart. You've learned your lesson. Haven't you? Tell everyone you're sorry. And we'll put this behind us. The room waited expectantly for my apology. Sophia started panicking. David. I'm scared she'll hurt me again. Her trembling lips and tear-filled eyes perfected the image of a vulnerable victim. Watching their coordinated performance nearly succeed in having me arrested. I finally spoke. You're absolutely right. The trespassers should leave immediately. Sophia's face lit up triumphantly while David's brow furrowed. I met his gaze with a cold smile. The penny dropped as he blurted, "This is all a misunderstanding. No one's evicting my girlfriend." "David!" Sophia tugged at his sleeve, sobbing uncontrollably. "Make her leave. Please." "Shut up. Sophia!" David snapped uncharacteristically, his panic showing. The two officers looked utterly confused as chaos erupted in the living room. Seizing the moment, I declared, "Officers, I completely agree with Mrs. Williams here. Breaking and entering is a serious offense that demands consequences." Sophia crowed, "See? She admits it." "Therefore," I continued, "please escort these two intruders off the property immediately." The crowd froze. Sophia gaped in disbelief. "Have you lost your mind? This is David's house." I simply smiled as David turned deathly pale. Sure enough, David hadn't been honest with her. This house didn't belong to David at all. It was mine. David had been my family's charity case. During his senior year, he said he wanted to attend grad school and needed to rent a place near campus. Since I happened to own a property nearby, I let him stay. At first, David felt awkward about it and transferred me $15 monthly as symbolic rent. But even this token payment only lasted 6 months before stopping completely. Now he's acting like he owns the place? How generous of him not to kick me out. I stared David down. "Since when did this become your house, David?" David flushed crimson, resentment burning in his eyes. His silence panicked Sophia. She clung to his arm, simpering. "David." Suppressing my disgust, I told the officers firmly, "This is my property. Please remove these two." David suddenly regained his composure. "Emily, are you really this heartless? You'd throw us out?" His admission hung in the air. Sophia's face darkened. "You called the cops to evict me first." I countered. "I'm just returning the favor." Both paled but stood their ground. "We're not trespassing." David blustered. "You agreed to let me stay. Even if you own it, you can't kick out a tenant without notice." I smirked. "Who said anything about trespassing?" Turning to the officers, I declared, "I'm reporting them for solicitation of prostitution." All four gasped. Sophia spluttered. You're slandering us." "Hardly," I said. "I saw David carefully selecting condoms at the grocery store last Thursday. Smart enough to hide them in his car before meeting me, but unlucky enough that I arrived at the theater 2 hours early and wandered into that same store. I kicked the overturned trash can, sending used tissues and David's meticulously chosen condoms rolling across the floor. When you leave evidence this obvious, it's impossible not to notice." Sophia burst into fresh tears as David's triumphant expression crumbled. Sobbing, "You think I don't know the law? I could sue you for slander." The moment the threat left Sophia's lips, she abruptly stopped crying. "I've already provided the police with evidence of their illicit activities. Officer, check that trash can over there, it's full of their used items." I pointed at David. "You should also examine their mobile payment records." Both turned beet red, lips trembling wordlessly. I remembered how 3 months ago, David had approached me claiming his cousin-in-law Sophia needed financial assistance since she wasn't working. I generously increased his allowance, knowing full well some would trickle down to Sophia. "Oh, and officer," I added sweetly, "if you need more proof, that partially burned bedsheet should do nicely." Guess they weren't thorough enough cleaning up after their little fire drill. After hours of commotion, David and Sophia were escorted to the police station. I followed to give my statement. Neighbors crowded the apartment entrance, buzzing with speculation. I burst into fresh tears before anyone could speak. "This is so humiliating. I never imagined they'd betray me like this. My performance instantly swayed the crowd. Isn't that Mr. Miller? What did he do? Heard he got busted for soliciting. Really? He seemed so respectable. And that hussy without a bra his cousin's wife? Disgusting. Wait. They're related? Arresting them was the right call. The chorus of condemnation grew as the pair ducked their heads. David stopped caring about Sophia's exposed state, practically running to the patrol car. When I left the station hours later, they remained in custody. I never saw their release. But a neighbor sent me footage the next morning. Their belongings sat piled outside my door. Exhausted and unraveling. They screamed obscenities at the empty apartment until realizing nobody remained inside to hear. The cursing finally stopped. According to neighbors, the two had confirmed their sibling-in-law relationship at the police station, clearing them of prostitution allegations. Now the entire community knew about their affair. Their reputations in tatters. They eventually slunk away like stray dogs. Meanwhile, I, Emily Johnson, lounged on a tropical beach halfway across the globe, sunlight dancing on turquoise waves. A sea breeze carried the scent of coconut sunscreen as a man in linen shorts approached, condensation dripping from his lemonade glass. Ms. Johnson? These analytics might perform better with adjusted parameters. His baritone voice interrupted my spreadsheet work. Turning, I found myself staring at razor-sharp jawlines that transported me back to senior year, that fateful afternoon when David had materialized in the campus cafe sunlight. Laptop glowing as he'd said those identical words. What I'd mistaken for romantic destiny had been his calculated opening move. Thanks for the input. I smiled politely, mentally patting myself for not repeating past mistakes. 4 weeks later, department heads clustered outside my corporate office when David barged past security. Emily! His theatrical gasp echoed through marble corridors. Where've you been? I've looked everywhere. My secretary swiftly redirected gawking employees. We broke up. I stated flatly. Who's this performance for? His mask slipped momentarily before he blurted. It was all Sophia's scheme. She manipulated me. I watched impassively as David transformed into a method actor, blaming his mistress turned scapegoat. Stop being difficult. He finally pleaded. I've cut ties with Sophia. Let's fix this. Security arrived as I texted Sophia a screenshot of our conversation. Your boyfriend's rewriting history. I typed. Care to collaborate on a counter-narrative? The last thing I saw before elevators closed was David's stunned face, the exact expression he'd worn when discovering I'd transferred his special project funds to an offshore account months earlier. Some data sets, once corrupted, can't be recovered. David Miller listened to my words, a flicker of panic crossing his face. He quickly composed himself and said, All right, Emily. I get how you're feeling. But you've made enough scenes already. I'm here apologizing voluntarily now. If you keep this up, you're crossing the line. I stared at David like he'd lost his mind. This confrontation made me realize how much I'd spoiled him in the past, allowing him to maintain this condescending attitude toward me. Emboldened by my silence, David grew more self-righteous. Let's drop this. Just remember to wire today's research grant, the lab's counting on it. I nearly laughed at his audacity. This final year graduate student had produced 0 results in 3 years. The lab would have expelled him ages ago if not for my monthly donations buying his continued enrollment. David, I said coldly, we're done. No more funding for unethical leeches. Get psychiatric help if you need it. But stop wasting my time. Secretary Wang materialized instantly, escorting a thrashing David who screamed, Emily, you'll regret this. Through the office doors. My prophecy came true faster than expected. Days later, David checked into the hospital, not for mental health, but at the urology ward. Desperate after losing my financial backing, he tried stealing research data only to get caught red-handed by lab cameras. When police involvement loomed, David sent Sophia to seduce his accuser. The plot failed spectacularly when the target never showed. Camera footage later revealed the would-be seductress and David getting creative with pantry supplies in their empty hotel room. Peanut butter, whipped cream, anaphylaxis medication on standby. Mid-enthusiastic mistake-making. David's body betrayed him. Naked and terrified, he rushed to the urology department where doctors confirmed his performance issues weren't psychological. Secretary Wang's report coincided with two unwelcome visitors, Sophia and Alice. David's mother. The older woman clutched her handbag with saccharine desperation. "Please," Alice implored. "You must help my boy." I examined the woman who'd raised this train wreck, saying nothing as her fake smile strained under my silence. "Am I some kind of stupid fool? How dare you come begging after what happened?" Before I could respond, Alice reached out to take my hand. I quickly pulled away, leaving her with an awkward smile as she rubbed her palms against her faded slacks like the motion might erase her shame. Sophia couldn't contain her rage. "Emily, you were David's girlfriend. This is all your fault. If you hadn't cut off his funding, he never would have stolen that research." Her shrill voice echoed through the room until the sharp crack of my palm meeting her cheek silenced it. I wiped my hands with a tissue. Action always speaks louder than words. Alice watched me with trembling lips, working up courage before whispering, "I'm sorry. Emily, blame me, not them." This old woman failed to raise her son right. Tears soaked into her threadbare sleeves. "But David's refusing treatment at the hospital. He keeps begging to see you. I lost one child already, he's all I have left." The desperation in her sunken eyes gave me pause. "Fine," I finally said. "Where's the hospital? I'll visit tomorrow." The next afternoon found me not at the medical center, but a nearby cafe where Grace gagged on her espresso. "Go Doffel," she grimaced. "Why are we here again?" "Patience." I nodded toward three police officers escorting handcuffed figures into a squad car. As the commotion faded, a young man approached our table. "Ms. Emily? Where's Lily?" I asked, noting his solitary arrival. He's still unconscious in the hospital bed with police guarding him. "Emily, what's this?" Grace interrupted, cutting into the conversation. I patiently explained. "She and Lily are the bodyguards I recently hired. Let's go check on Lily." The security guard led the way while briefing us. Lily encountered Alice in the hallway. Alice didn't suspect anything and led her to room 201. Within a minute, they emerged with Lily following Alice's instructions like a zombie, completely compliant without resistance. That's when I called the police. When officers arrived, they caught Alice, Sophia, and an unidentified man trying to shove unconscious Lily into a van. Grace gasped. "What's happening? Who's Alice? And who's that man?" Before I could answer, Grace stared at Lily's face in shock. "Her makeup. This is incredible. If you weren't standing here, I'd swear this was actually you." I instructed her to disguise herself this way, I said, watching the still unconscious Lily. My precaution had paid off. Grace pressed urgently. "Explain everything. What's really going on?" Alice isn't the simple, honest woman she pretends to be. Their plan was to kidnap me. Initially, her modest appearance fooled me too, but her persistent attempts to get close made me suspicious. I never believe good fruit grows from rotten trees anyway. My investigation revealed their scheme. They planned to smuggle me back to the Miller's hometown where David's hiding. They'd imprison me in a cellar, force me to bear David's child, then use the baby to blackmail me into clearing David's criminal record and transferring all my assets to him as my husband. Knowing their intentions, I hired Lily as my double. Now we've caught them red-handed. They can't deny the evidence. Lily regained consciousness the next day, only remembering meeting Alice in the hallway and being led to a hospital room containing only a middle-aged patient, no sign of David. Alice patted Lily's shoulder. Then everything went blank. Hospital tests confirmed she'd been drugged with a street-compliance substance. Grace shook her head incredulously. Emily, this is beyond dramatic. What started as a relationship turned into a kidnapping plot. Who goes this far over a breakup? The police soon clarified things. This wasn't about a failed romance. The Millers were criminals from the beginning. David Miller approached me with calculated intentions. Alice Miller and her group were human traffickers. Alice and that middle-aged man had been partners in crime for years. After giving birth to David, they abandoned him in their rural hometown to continue their trafficking operations. As time progressed and David got accepted into a prestigious university, the couple decided to retire and settle down. But karma struck swiftly, shortly after returning home. Their eldest son drunkenly drove into the village fish pond late at night when everyone was asleep. The accident went unnoticed until 3 days later, by which time he'd already died. Sophia Williams then began pursuing David. The parents turned a blind eye to their relationship, desperate to keep this daughter-in-law. Since David only visited their hometown occasionally during school breaks while studying in City A, the secret held. After graduation, when David chose to stay in City A, Sophia grew restless and followed him. For 2 months their affair continued undetected until I exposed everything. When news of our breakup reached Alice, they panicked. They plotted to kidnap me, imprison me in the countryside to force a marriage, then have David take control of my finances as my husband. But my vigilance ruined their scheme. Alice, Sophia, and the middle-aged accomplice were ultimately convicted. David got arrested by local police too. The whole family ended up behind bars together. As for me, I launched my new cross-country travel plans the next morning.